Hey guys, Florian here. So you bought your first Fujifilm camera and you want to start shooting some family portraits or portraits in general. Today I'm going to give you a deep dive into my menu and how I use the Fujifilm X system when shooting portraits 100% manually. I choose my aperture, I choose my ISO, and also I choose my shutter speed. Why? For the simple reason it gives me 100% flexibility and I can expose the picture how I would like to have it. So let's cover my most important menu settings when it comes down to shooting portraits. First of all, I shoot 100% RAW. I don't even shoot RAW and JPEG, I just shoot RAW all the time when shooting portraits, just to have the most flexibility and the biggest file size possible, to have a most quality image file size, and also for post-processing it gives you the biggest file size and you got the most data to work with. Then basically our RAW recording will be uncompressed. Film simulation is set to standard, to Provia, because of I do all my adjustments in post. Whatever I might want to do, change the color, change it to black and white, everything will happen after in post. And if you would say you would shoot the across within camera, you can't convert it back to your color profile picture. So everything would happen in a camera, certain settings are burnt in and you can't undo them. So always good to have a standard film simulation, picture profile, and then do everything else in post. Then grain effect, color chrome effect, all those settings gonna happen later on a laptop in post as well, and nothing will happen in a camera. So we keep it as simple, as easy as possible within a camera, and then all the adjustments towards the pictures gonna happen later in Capture One. Then our white balance is set to auto because I think that the Fujifilm system does a very good job with their white balance when it comes down to pictures. You could set, of course, your white balance to yourself, or you got a certain white balance type of color you like and you want to use, that's up to you. But I use auto white balance. And then basically our dynamic range is set to auto for the simple reason the camera does a good job in matching your dynamic range towards your ISO. If you shoot the ISO between 160 to 320, your dynamic range is basically 100, which is no stops of recovery. Everything above 320 up to 640 is a dynamic range of 200, which is basically one stop of recovery. And then everything above 640 up to 12,800 or extended version 51,200 or whatever it is, you got basically dynamic range 400, 2 stops of recovery. However, on average, I leave the setting set to auto as well, for the simple reason I think the camera does a good job in choosing a dynamic range towards my ISO. Something I need to throw quickly in here. So when choosing to shoot the dynamic range in auto mode, it also can happen when you're outside and let's say you shoot an ISO of 640 on a very nice sunny day, that the camera will decide to use a dynamic range of 200 because this will be the best setting in this moment for the taken image. So therefore having a benefit of the camera deciding which dynamic range to choose is just one less setting to worry about. So let's go back to the video. Then basically all the highlight tones, shadow tones, color, sharpness, this is adjustments you do in post. You can do them in a camera as well, but they count for JPEG settings. You record with the RAW file, or if you take a picture in RAW format, you will get all the details, all the dynamic range possible, and then you can use it in post to do all those tweaks, color, sharpness, etc. So, and then basically we're coming down to our autofocus manual setting. So autofocus, of course, it's an important point when out and about and shooting. So my autofocus mode is usually set to single point because I'm gonna shoot portraits. I can communicate with the person usually stands still, and then the single point will do fine. Sometimes depends on subject. I do use the zone and wide tracking as well when you do some walking shots and you fire 30 frames per second. Then zone and wide tracking for walking shots or walking portraits are a good choice to use, however 99% it's single point. Then my number of focus points is set to 425 to use the most coverage of a sensor and having the most points of focus available. Next one would be my face and eye detection. As mentioned already a few times, I got my function button set to it, and I got a different video for this, and I'm gonna link it up here so you can have a look later how to customize your function buttons, how you need them or how you would like to have them. So anyway, face and eye detection, sometimes I do use it, sometimes I don't, and I just use my single point autofocus. And then basically, if you would shoot with a manual focus lens, you could switch a manual focus assist on to peak so that you get those red lines around your subject when you twist the lens. So, and then we're coming quickly into the Q menu, which I did set up for photography as well, that I got easy access to all the settings if I want to change something on the fly. My custom settings are programmed as well to make my workflow easy, speedy, and yeah, just convenient. So my first window would be my autofocus mode, where I can change between zone, wide and all tracking and single point focus. Then my next window would be the dynamic range, which I can adjust on the fly if I want to go from auto dynamic range down to dynamic range 100 for whatever reason. Then my white balance, then I got a window for the film simulation, my image size or quality that I can choose between RAW, JPEG, JPEG fine, RAW and JPEG, but as mentioned already guys, majority of times we shoot RAW, or I shoot RAW when shooting portraits. Next window would be my full high-speed recording. This counts for video, but it is in there as well. And then underneath I still got my highlight tones, my shadow tones, my color and my sharpness tones as well, because sometimes I do shoot only JPEGs when I do private walk-arounds and just go for myself and want to use the cameras, and sometimes I do shoot the JPEGs and use those settings to adjust them as well. Underneath, of course, you got your LCD brightness to adjust, your flush settings, your eye focus detection, and also a self timer. You never know when you need one. And that's pretty much how I set up my Fujifilm system. And here we go guys. It doesn't need to be very complicated. It doesn't need to be everything set up in camera. You can use the camera, use it more or less at basic settings and get fantastic images out of this camera. At the end of the day, it comes down to potentially 2 or 3 things. What's your lighting like? Is your shutter speed high enough that you don't blur out the pictures or they are unsharp? And making sure that your whole image works as once. And if you follow those 3 steps, your image will be great. You can do as much editing as you want or as little editing as you want. I personally try not to over edit my images and try to get everything right in camera, because it makes life easier and you don't need to spend hours and hours in a editing program or in Capture One, Lightroom, Photoshop, Affinity, whatever you use. And with that said guys, I hope those insight how I did set up my Fujifilm system to shoot portraits with been helpful, and if it was, hit the thumbs up button, like, comment and subscribe, do all the good stuff. And with that said guys, let me know what else you would like to see, and yeah, happy shooting, and I'm gonna see you my friend very soon in another video. Cheers guys.